Hello everyone, this is a continuation of the previous video. We are still in the same case study where we are taking the examples of division wise headcount, salary, average salary, etc. Now previous video we ended at a point where we were able to get out a report which said division wise rating analysis in terms of percentage, and we were able to analyze this based on every strategic business unit, considering AD to be a separate unit. Now let me check off all the points. Let me make it back to an empty shell report, because the next one is very interesting. The next technique will be based on MIS report 4, which will show you division wise, age group wise, what is the head count for the entire organization. So if I want to have a quick overview how senior, how junior, how middle aged is my organization workforce, I can prepare this report. Not just that, I will also be talking about how do you pool, how do you separate people, these workers, in separate pools of salary, and based on the rating you can perhaps analyze the training requirements of people. For example, amongst the highest salary receivers and the people who are getting not so good rating, they may perhaps be nominated for performance improvement training. So there you go. How do you group them in terms of salary pools? Now this is not ending here, because you can also group these based on year and month of joining. So for example, in the year 1966, in the month of November, 2 people joined the division AD and 1 in RAD, totaling up to 3. So these 3 different reports are based on the same technique which I'll be discussing right now. So let me come back to my empty shell report. What I'm going to do is start with the division wise, age group wise MIS report. So let me put division in the row fields as we generally used to do. Now if I put age, now age being a number, if I put that in the main action area, you'll notice I get the total of everyone's age. But of course I don't want that report. I would want to put the age in the column fields out here, so that the entire list of possible combinations come up. Now of course this is not going to be generating a meaningful report. What I need to do right now is right click on the heading age, because once I do that I will get an option which says group. Once this is group, let's see what options do we get from this grouping. If I look closely, it says the minimum age starting at 25, the maximum 57. And how would you want to group it? In terms of 10 interval, let's say 25 to 34, 35 to 44, and so on. Okay, so now you notice division wise, age group wise analysis. Now if you wanted an interval of 5, you could have changed that. Right click on the age group, certainly group, and if I change the interval to let's say 5, let's look at the report. Wonderful. So I now have the age grouping in terms of 5 interval, 25 to 29, 30 to 34, and so on. All I need is fill in the action area with the head count, for which let me pick up the name and put that in the main action area. And as soon as I put that in, 417 employee, that's the total workforce. And how are they distributed across various divisions, across various age groups? If I want to have a much more concise report, I may want to reduce the interval. So let me once again right click on age group. Let me keep the interval at 10. Okay, so 417 employees, and this is how they look. And of course if you want to change them in terms of percentage, let's say as a percentage of the total workforce, how many people are belonging to division, how many people are belonging to the young age group. So what I may do is right click on count of name. I could go to value field settings. Alternatively, I can double click on count of name, because that is going to yield me the same thing, value field settings. Now based on the previous videos learning, we know if we go into the second tab, show values as, and if you want to show the values as not normal but maybe as a percentage of column. Now why would I do that? If I do percentage of column, you can see the analysis from the point of view of age grouping wise. So 100%, if I consider all the people within the age group of 25 to 34 to be 100%, how are they placed across various divisions? If I do a similar analysis, but in that case if I do percentage of row. Let's get to see what the result comes out to be. Double click on the count of name, show values as, try with percentage of row. So now each unit considered as a separate business unit, and within which how are they being placed. Perhaps if I do a percentage of total, the picture would be completely different. So percentage of total. Okay, so now 100% is the workforce. Almost 30% of them belong to the young age group, and almost 9% in the senior age category. So you may try different combination. The results going to be very helpful. So this was the first application of grouping. Let me do one thing. Let me check off all the items once again, and let me show you how you can use the grouping to your benefit. So let me put division. Now if I put salary in the column fields, it is going to show me individual salary. So let me do one thing. Let me put salary in the row fields and the division in the column fields. Or maybe I'll put division later. Let me first start with salary. Now this is going to be a very long list based on individual salary. So what I want to do for my convenience is right click on salary, group them. Now I want the group to look like $0 to $100,000, $100 to $200,000. Hence let me change the starting to 0, and let me keep the interval to be $100,000. Okay. Alright, so what I get is pools of salary. Now if I put the rating in place of column fields, I get the 2 by 2 grid. Now if I put the name list in the main action area, this will automatically give me count of name, which means head count. So as a training analyst, I would perhaps look at these set of people, to be precise this set of people who are getting lower rating and probably earning higher salary category. So they perhaps need a performance improvement training. Now if I want to send this report to every division's unit CEO, I may want to put the division in the page fields, which will give me an additional filter. So now if I choose division AD from the page fields, the report generated will be only talking about the people from the division AD. Similarly, if I put RDD, okay, so there are only 6 people in division RDD, and this is how it looks. So this one person probably need a one-to-one session on how he may improve the performance. And if I want to know the name of this person, let me double click. As we noticed earlier, in a new sheet, the details of that particular person is now shown to you. So once I note the name, let me go back to the pivot table. Let me clear the list and say let me give an summarized report for all the units. So we can group numbers if you're talking about ratings, if you're talking about salary, if you're talking about age. In fact, learning from the previous video, we also saw even date is a number. So now if I check off all the items and I put the date of joining in row fields, of course I'm going to get individual date of joinings, but this is not my motive. My motive is to group them as per year and months. Now let's see how do I do that. I right click on DOJ, I reach out to group. Now notice very carefully, this time the interface is much more elaborate than the previous 2 cases. This time I am given the option to choose between months and years. In fact, more options exist. For now only these 2 will do. So if I press OK, you'll notice years and months wise grouping. Now this kind of grouping is very useful when we talk about date wise transactions, be it purchase, be it sales, be it date of joining, be it date of any transaction, any accounting entry. So now if I may put the division in the column fields, which will give me the division names, and the magical part is if I put the name in the main action area, as we have seen, since name is text, it will give me count of name, and quite clearly year wise, month wise, people joining different division. If I scroll to the bottom of this report, you will notice there are still the same set of number, 417 employees. Wonderful. So try grouping with various numbers, be it age, rating, transaction amount, salary amount. You'll get to see so many useful reports. Let me check off all the items, because before we take the next case study on pivot table, one quick scenario which is not exactly a drawback of pivot table, but yes, something that you need to be aware of. That is, let's say if there was division and there were number of people against each division. Now let's say AD division has 41 people, and in my main data at a future point in time somebody has taken a shift from HFD to AD. Of course, now the headcount should increase for division AD, which doesn't happen. Why? Because you need to refresh it manually. You need to right click on any part of the report and say refresh. As soon as you do that, you'll notice there's an increase in the headcount in the division AD. Perfect. So that is one quick thing that you need to be aware of. Additionally, it might also happen that after a certain point in time there was a new set of employee who joined in. For example, 21st September 2012, I may be joining the organization in the division RAD. Oops, let me write the salary. RAD, rating 1, let's say age 28. Now once I do that, of course pivot table will not be able to reflect this change. Why? Because the source that we had selected ended here. So let me do one thing. Let me go back to pivot table. As soon as I do that, if I go to options, within options there's something called change data source. Now if I do that change data source, it will re-ask me whether the data chosen is correct. So if I just notice there was the 423rd row which I had added, so I may just add that one row extra, 423, press OK. And if I now refresh, in fact it has already taken place as soon as I have shown Excel the revised data source, 418 employees. So this is the quick brush up of pivot table from various scenarios. If I go to the various reports that we generated, let me start with the one that we ended up with. That was year wise, month wise, people joining in different division. We also talked about salary. How do we pool them in different categories of salary, and how can we analyze this against the backdrop of rating. We can also see how is my organization placed in terms of age groups across various divisions. Rating wise division analysis. I can perhaps also make them displayed in percentage form for better analysis. And of course I can draw the same category, let's say salary, in the main action area 3 times, so that I can change one to sum, one to average, and another to count. So this was one case study on pivot table, all talking about people, employees, data set. We'll take more case studies on the similar topic. Why? Because this is a very important topic. Probably you'll be using it very often after you have seen and understood the full power of pivot table. So see you in the next video.